Lone Druid here. I've recently had a lot of requests from my stream and YouTube to make a PvP resto guide, and I'm more than happy to make one. Now, I'm not going to say I'm the best Druid in the world, but I'm certainly not the worst. I've got around 2700 last season experience on EU and 2850 experience on US, so I hope that in some way this guide will help you guys out and improve your gameplay in some way. If you've got any questions related to the video, please leave a comment down below and I'll get to you as soon as possible. And if you enjoy the guide, please sub and follow my Twitch. Enjoy.
Jump!
Okay, so we're going to start off with talents. First of all, Prosperity. It's probably the best choice. With Nature Swiftness and Genesis gone, we're lacking the instant healing. Swiftmend isn't the biggest heal, but it's really good with a 30% artifact talent trait and 30% increased healing. It also goes really well with Sword of the Forest. And yeah, so that's probably, you're probably going to baseline choose that for most lineups, most comps, BGs, etc. Scenario and Ward, it's probably, it does a lot of healing over time, and it doesn't require it, you know, to proc in order to start the cooldown. You can just hit it and it starts the cooldown. And it's really good, but it doesn't have an initial heal, and I mean, it's not worth it over Prosperity. Prosperity is definitely the best talent. There's no situation where Scenario and Ward would be better than Prosperity. I just can't think of any reasons. Abundance, it's not even worth mentioning. It's such a bad talent. So tier 2, Renewal. To be honest, I like playing Renewal. I think it's best versus Drain comps like Affliction Warlocks, Unholy DKs, you know, stuff like that. Ferals, I think it's really good if you're in a situation where you can't keep up your team and keep up yourself at the same time. It's really nice to just have that instant heal, so you don't have to worry about yourself. You can just throw a few hots on yourself, instant heal, and start worrying about your teammates. Yeah, so the only reasons I'll play Renewal is with just drainer comps that drain everyone. Displacer Beast, it's definitely probably the best for most comps. It's, you know, a 20-yard instant teleport, gives you that movement speed. It's a no-brainer really. Wild Charge, it's really fun, but it's just not gonna work in any situations. It's always going to be Displacer Beast mostly, and then Renewal against some drainer comps. Affinities. So, okay, so Balance. Balance is one of the best choices for teams like RMP, RMD. It's really nice to have the extra range on Cyclone. It's really good to, you know, jump into Moonkin form to dispel stuff, and you don't have to worry about, you know, getting polyed. When you dispel, you get polyed instantly. It's a big thing with mages. Mages tend to polymorph for DPS, and they'll instantly start casting a polymorph on you. So when you dispel your teammate, you'll get polymorph straight away when you come out of form. But with Moonkin form, you can stay in Moonkin form and dispel without having to worry about it. Okay, so Feral Affinity, there's no way you'd go that in a 3v3 game. There's just no way. It's a fun spec for BGs. It's a good spec for 2v2. The only times you'd go Feral Affinity in 2v2 is if you've got a tanky partner, say like a DK or someone who can peel really well. In a lot of situations, you'd only go Feral Affinity if you're facing a team that you don't have to worry about yourself too much getting trained. To have that extra damage, say for example Resto Shaman Warrior, You could probably go Feral Affinity if you're playing with a Frost Mage or a Frost DK or something with that slow, that peel that can peel you straight away. You don't have to worry about getting trained. You just help out DPS. Guardian Affinity, 9 times out of 10 you'd go this. It's just too good against everything. The passive 6% damage reduce is just so good. The life regeneration from Frenzied Regeneration, it's just you've got to pick it in every situation. Also Iron Fur, it's really good for basically every melee comp. It's just too good to miss out. I mean, you've got instantly the 100% armor. Like there's just no way you can not pick that. Okay, so next tier, Mighty Bash. You're definitely going to be playing this over everything. In Legion, it'll take too long to explain the reasons why Mass Entanglement and Typhoon are just not worth it. So Mighty Bash every single time, even if you're playing with 2 rogues and 3s, you still play Mighty Bash. These are just too bad. They DR with a lot of stuff. Mass Entanglement doesn't work with, for example, doesn't work with encroaching vines. It's just a lot of things, and deep roots, for example, it doesn't work with deep roots. It's just not worth choosing these 2 at all. Okay, next is Soul of the Forest. Okay, so Soul of the Forest so far is the best talent to choose. You'd be choosing this over pretty much every single comp. There's very few situations where you'd go Cultivation. I mean, Cultivation is nice with Scenario Mode, for example, for the extra hots. If you know one target's going to get trained, then I mean it's a good choice to go Cultivation and Scenario Mode. But apart from that, Soul of the Forest, the rejuves increase and stuff like that is just too strong to miss out. Incarnation, there's just no reason to go this. It's really bad for that 30 seconds. Yeah, you're sure you're going to be in God mode, but after that 30 seconds, the game's over after that if you don't get a kill. I know there's a lot of BlizzCon players that played Incarnation versus FPS. They tried to match the Incarnation versus the Feral Incarnation. I think it was a bad choice in my opinion. It's not worth it. I mean, they did lose at the end of the day as well. Okay, so next is Spring Blossoms. It's probably the go-to talent, Spring Blossoms, in PvE, but apart from that, there's just no reason to pick it in PvP, so we're just going to skip that. Inner Peace, there's again no reason to pick that. Maybe RBGs for the extra healing, maybe. But apart from that, I mean, this talent's always been the most overpowered for 2 expansions now. You can apply 2 rejuvenations. It's too much to miss. You can't not go this. This is the main juicy healing from Resto Druids. Okay. Moment of Clarity. This is never going to be good in any situation. If it affected all your healing spells, then possibly, but 3 regrowths is nothing. Stonebark, this is the only good talent for PvP. This is the only one you'll be choosing. It's a great one. It's on, having a 60-second cooldown and the additional 20% healing. It's just too much. It's too good to miss. You just gotta get it. Flourish, there's no reason you'd ever pick this. It's just it's a PvE talent. It's nothing to do with PvP. Okay. Okay, so now we have honor talents. I'm going to start off with Gladiator's Medallion. It's a replacement for our former Medallion's Trinket. It doesn't get used much anymore. It's not the greatest. Adaption. It turned out to come in handy against certain comps. For example, Assassination Rogue Rep Paladin. They've only got the 1 tree of CC, which is the stuns. so you know it's going to come in handy because you don't have to worry about getting stunned, for example, and then straight adaptation proc straight into a fear or something like that. You've only got that one tree to worry about, and adaptation will trigger that tree, and you don't have to worry about it for until the next DR. Yeah, apart from that, the 60-second cooldown, it's too good to miss. I usually play adaptation versus 70% of the comps I'm against. Relentless, it's really good against, for example, comps with a lot of CC, like God comp, RMD, RMP, just comps that you know that there's gonna be a lot of CC landing on you, and there's not much you can do about it. Adaption's really good for just comps that you don't have to worry about CC much against. Okay, so second tier, Defender of the Week. It's the haste is really fun and it's really strong, and you'll be getting the buff quite often versus a lot of comps in Legion because they're really bursty comps in Legion. It does make a difference. It does help your HOTS. It makes your HOTS tick a lot quicker. It's really nice for you're in that situation where you're getting trained, or one of your partners are getting trained. Defender of the Week procs, you can get a really fast cyclone out on one of the DPSs to peel. It's okay, but 90% of the time I'll be playing Vim and Vigor. This is the go-to talent. It's really easy to notice the 20% difference. You can try it for yourself, test out for yourself. Whenever if you get dropped below 80%, it's very unlikely that you'll be below 80% for too long, because when you go below 80%, it's either a kill or you live through the burst. It's one or the other. All in all, I think Vim and Vigor is probably the best choice. It's the baseline talent I would go. Inner Renewal, it's really not worth, even versus dampening games that are going to last a long time. It's still not worth the mana cost. Saving you that mana cost, it's not worth it at all. So I'd go Vim and Vigor. They're on 90% of the comps. So third tier. First, I'm going to start with Druid of the Claw. I've had a lot of questions about this. It really does fit into the playstyle of Druid. Druid's been so tanky. It fits into that really well. It does good against casters as well as melee. I mean, casters, you won't get that rejuvenation proc, but the 10% little less critical hit chance, it really adds up, and it does make a difference. So there's that chance of the rejuvenation proccing as well off, for example, Warlock pets, or just anything with melee. So I mean, Druid of the Claw, I'd go that 90% of the games. The only time I'd ever go Thorns is, for example, against a Walking Dead, and I know, I mean, the comps that I play with comps that can peel really well, so I know that I would be able to play with Thorns. I don't have to worry about getting one shot or getting trained. Disentanglement, this is probably one of the best talents against double caster teams. I mean, it's even if you're playing with casters, it's still so good to drop that down. It's basically freedoms for your whole team. It does cost a lot of mana. I mean, it costs nearly 50k mana. That's quite a lot. So you obviously can't be spamming that down, but it's still really nice to get your team out of the slows. It helps them keep on the target. Helps you get away from targets. I mean, it's just an all-round probably the best talent against caster comps. So for caster comps, I'd go Disentanglement. For melee comps, I'd go Druid of the Claw 90% of the time. Okay, next tier. So Cyclone, it's a no-brainer. There's that you wouldn't pick anything else. It'd be Cyclone every single time. It's a 6-second CC. There's no dispel for it except Master Spell. It's just too good to miss. You'd never pick this. I mean, the 25% damage would add up, and it would be nice if it worked with Mass Entanglement, but it doesn't, so it's not worth it. Same with deep roots. Deep roots, you'd never get a root. If you were getting trained, you wouldn't be able to get a roots out anyway. There's no I mean, and it would just get instantly dispelled. There's no reason why you'd play this. And again, it doesn't work with mass entanglement. Okay, next here, fortified bark. Fortified bark is definitely the most OP talent I've ever came across in PvP. It's just so ridiculously strong. As of right now, it's 56% damage reduction, which is insane, and it puts it on a 45-second cooldown. I'd take this on a baseline talent, no brainer. The only time you'd ever play this Revitalize is, I mean, it does refresh duration of rejuvenation, which is really nice, but I'd say I wouldn't even play this. I don't think I'd ever play this. I'm always going to play Fortified Bark. It's just too good to not have. It's too OP at the moment. It's definitely going to get nerfed at some point. Okay, it's next here. Focused Growth. Yeah, this is nice. It's really situational. I mean, the only time I'd ever play this is in 2s. I wouldn't play this in 3s. I think in 3s, no matter what comp you're facing, I'd usually go Overgrowth. The only time I'd ever go Early Spring is against, again, Drainer comps like FPS, Feral Shadow Priest Shaman, Feral Shadow Priest Healer, you know, Unholy DK, Shadow Priest, Affliction Lock, you know, just Drainer comps that'll drain your health really fast. It's really nice to have that instant Wild Regrowth cast to help keep your team topped. So there's, I mean, Focus Regrowth for 2s, sure. I'd never pick it for 3s. Plus you're always swapping your life blooms over to whatever target's being trained. Overgrowth is really nice. I mean, for example, there's the mage spell Kleptomania, where they can steal all your hots in one global, and it's really nice to just throw this up straight away. A little tip as well, this is also affected by Soul of the Forest, so if you, for example, Swift Mend with Soul of the Forest, you get the Soul of the Forest buff, and when you hit this Overgrowth, it affects every single hot that's applied to your target, which is really overpowered and really nice. So it's not something many druids know about, but there you go. Okay, so artifact traits. Where we're going to be starting now is here, and we're going to be going up towards this way. We want the 30% increased Swift Mend. That's the best one to go for, without a doubt. It's probably the nicest trait in the whole book. Then we want to be going over here and then over here. This is really nice. For example, Bear Form, you've got extra percentage on your HP, which is more heals. It's just too nice to not to get. So then once you've got that, you come back over here and then back up to here. The increase in the life bloom, it's really nice. You go over this way, over here. The Wild Regrowth instant heal is really nice. It also works really nice with Early Spring, which gives Wild Regrowth an instant cast. So then once you've got that, you go back down here, all the way to here, which reduces the Iron Bark effect by an additional 4%, or more depending on your artifact power, obviously, because I haven't got points in mine yet. Then you go over to here, and then it's really situational. It depends on how you feel, but you can go up to here and then up to this one, or you can go back down from there to here. You get the extra regen and you get the points in there, or you can go for the extra duration on your hots. Personally, I'd go this way, go there, back down here, there. I think that's the most effective one you're gonna get. It's the best effective build for PvP. Here's the proper pathing that the way you should take with the artifact power. I mean, you can obviously switch around a bit and you know, go off from the paths a little bit depending on how your playstyle is, but this is the one I recommend taking. So you can just pause this and copy it, maybe screenshot it if you want. but this is the most effective path you can take. Okay, so now we're on to healing. Gonna go over the mastery first. Basically, the mastery is fairly strong for the rest of Druids at the moment. It's changed quite a lot over the last few expansions, but now the amount of healing has increased depending on how many hots you have applied to the target. So each hot applied does increase your healing by so much, based on obviously how much mastery you actually have. Generally, you never want your hots to expire, but sometimes obviously you can't avoid that. It's always really important to keep the hots refreshed. One example with that is Life Bloom. If you apply Life Bloom, I'm going to wait for this to tick down to about roughly 4 or 5 seconds, and then I'm going to reapply it, and you'll notice that I'll still get the initial bloom heal effect. So I got that initial bloom heal. What a lot of people tend to do, which is a mistake, is they wait for the duration of the life blooms to end, because they think that's the only way you're going to get the initial bloom proc. But it's not true. You can always reapply within 4 or 5 seconds to get the initial bloom heal. Rejuvenation, it's the strongest heal for the rest of Druids. You always want to keep rejuvenations on your targets at all times. Regrowth, it's the main burst heal that we've got. For example, when you're getting spam dispelled or stuff like that, you'll want to be spamming regrowth for the obviously the living seed, which is a really big heal, and the initial heal of the regrowth cast. Swift mend, I see a lot of Druids making the mistake of wasting this. You know, if the target's on 80-90%, they'll swift mend to keep the target topped. That's not what you want to be doing. You want to be keeping swift mend as the oh shit button. Below 60%, that's when you want to be swift mending. Maybe 70 if they're popping CDs, or you're struggling to keep the target up. You never want to just use swift mend off cooldown. To at least in this expansion, it's a mistake. Wild growth, it's a really strong mana burner, but it does a lot of our traits affect wild growth, so it's worth using sometimes. It's never worth using for single target heals. For example, if you just want an extra hot to go on that target, it's not worth using wild growth. Sorry. Efflorence, it depends on how you use it. It's not worth using for the extra heal most of the time because of the mana cost of it. If you're playing a dampening game, you don't want to be using Efflorence at all. I use it for the extra, just to keep the target topped. If it's a melee against melee and they're not moving anywhere, I'll always throw an Efflorence down just for that extra bit of healing if I've got the mana for it. Tranquility, even though the healing does get increased through talents in our weapon, it's still fairly weak. But being able to cast it while moving does give the opportunity to use it while changing locations or kiting around pillars to avoid interrupts from nearby enemies. The artifact power, Essence of Ganir. Having all your hots increased by 100% is huge. The cooldown's really short as well, for 1.5 minutes, but you don't want to waste it. It's really important to get as much value out of it as possible and to use it to stabilize a situation. If all your team are running low, throw hots on everyone, use that to top them all back up. It's really important before. I see a lot of Druids, they don't have all the hots on the target before using it. They'll use it and then apply hots, or use it and then apply some of the hots that they're missing. It's really important to pre-hot the target, make sure all your hots are rolling before you use this to get the most out of it, because it doesn't last for very long. Overgrowth, Overgrowth is probably our strongest ability. I've gone through it a little bit before, but I'll go through it again. Instantly applying all the hots, it's so strong when you synergize it with Soul of the Forest, as well as the Ganir, the artifact power. If you use it right, you can top a target from 1 to 100% in seconds. It's really strong. if you combine it well. There's a lot of combinations with druids that a lot of people don't realise. Ironbark, since we're running it with Stonebark, Ironbark doesn't just reduce damage, it also increases the healing the target receives through our hots, giving us, you know, an easier time to recover. Good usage of it. You can really change games around with using Ironbark well. Burst healing, I mean, we haven't got swift nature swiftness anymore. Burst healings went down a lot. That was the main struggle with this expansion healing, is we didn't have any burst healing, and it still is a little bit of a problem, but we make it work. I mean, nothing's worse than coming out of a CC and seeing your teammates on the edge of health and knowing like you haven't got much time. By the time you've got those hots up, your target's dead. You know, it's really hard. But again, using Ironbark, that's what can turn games around. It's got no global cooldown. You can follow up with a Swift Mend, obviously gaining Soul of the Forest through that, and then using it with an Overgrowth after that. And you can if you're really struggling, you can combo that with the Essence of Gane Artifact Power, stuff like that. Combinations with the rest of Druid's healing, it matters a lot this expansion. I've noticed a lot of players are scared of getting interrupted, and they struggle quite a lot with you know, how to heal through healing. But it does make such a big difference healing wise between someone who deals with interrupts and knows when getting interrupted does no real harm. Some people, you know, the ones that are too scared of it and start falling way too far behind, because of it, it's a big step up and definitely not easy, but the result is worth it if you know how to avoid the situations where if you do get interrupted, it's no big deal. Rest of Druids, the thing that's strong about Rest of Druids is if you do get interrupted, I mean, it's not going to affect the situation too much, since you'll always have your hots rolling. But it just depends on, can you afford to cast this clone and get interrupted, or, you know, do you want to just make sure your target's hotted fully before you run in for the clone, just in case you do get interrupted, stuff like that. But we do have the leeway to take the risks to go in for the cyclones with their targets being pre-hotted, and you know, we don't have to worry too much if we get interrupted. Okay, so survival. I get a lot of questions from druids asking questions about survival, when to stay in bear form, when to come out to heal. Is tanking in bear form, you know, more effective than getting out of bear form to hot yourself? So I'm gonna try and be as detailed as possibly can. Basically, the main ability that I'm going to be talking about is Druid of the Claw. It is a really good ability, and you're going to be playing this versus 99% of the melee comps you face. Maybe even one caster. It's still worth it for that 10% reduced critical. So what you want to be doing is making as much use as you can of Displace a Beast. Basically, you want to make sure that you're rotating your CDs. You want to make sure that you don't want to just burn through your Displace a Beast or burn through your defensives. You don't want to skin and then blink. You don't want to, you know, you've got to time rotate your CDs. So I mean, it gives you a great opportunity to use Vortex when you're blinking away. Just drop a Vortex, blink away. I mean, it's one of those things that you've really got to make sure, you know, can you Displace a Beast around a corner and not get grip back? You know, it's all about managing your CDs. If you do Displace a Beast, you want to use that and get grip back, and then you've got your skin to use after that. It's just one of those things. So option one, that's I mean, using Displace a Beast and getting away. That's dropping a Vortex, trying to get your teammates to peel you. That's your one option. Option two is just staying in bear form, keep tanking, keep as much, you know, frenzied regeneration spam as you can. Try and get Iron Furs up, and then maybe possibly waiting to come out of a stun and, you know, hotting yourself after that. So basically, how I work things is the only times I'll ever use Displace a Beast is to get out of sticky situations. I'll never use it to go in for a CC. I'll never use it to blink fears or stuff like that, I'll always use it to get out of situations, because I feel like it's a waste to use it for anything else. Yeah, so it really does depend. If you want to sit in bear form, you know, spam mangle, spam thrash, spam frenzy regeneration. Keep getting your moonfires up in your downtime if you've got no rage or no globals to use for anything else, if mangle's on CD, for example. But yeah, so the next option, the third option is managing your bark skin. You're always gonna, I see so many druids, even over 2500 rating. I see druids, the first global they use if they get stunned or get swapped to is bark skin, and I've never seen a bigger waste. So first of all, they should be in bear form. They should have seen the swap coming and shifted into bear form to prevent so much more damage. But if there's times when you can't, when you didn't see it coming, when you zoned out a little bit and you got swapped to, never instantly bark skin. The only time I'd ever instantly bark skin is if I see massive CDs and I know that I'm going to get grip back, or I'm in a vortex and I'm going to get pulled straight back in if I blink away. I'm just going to hit my bark skin, get into bear, spam frenzy regeneration and wait for my teammates to peel so I can come out and then start hurting myself. There'll be no situation where I'll instantly bark skin when they swap to me. Even if I'm 50% and they swap to me straight away, I still wouldn't bark skin. I save bark skin for CDs to counter their CDs. Okay, for stat priority, I'd go haste, mastery, versatility, then crit. Moving on to macros. First one is the stealth macro. This basically, there's a problem when you enter stealth. If you spam the stealth button, it'll take you straight back out. But with this macro, it basically doesn't let that happen. It'll keep you in stealth no matter how much you spam it. And it can be kind of game changing. If you're starting an arena, you go into cat form and you're hitting stealth and it takes you straight back out. It's a game changer sometimes. Arena target 1, 2, 3s. I go all the way up to 4, obviously for PvE if I'm in a 5-man group. This is nice for, you don't have to click your raid bars to set focus. You can just hit this macro and it'll automatically set your target focus. These are really helpful. These cast bear forms, cast cat forms, etc. Just prevents you from being able to, if you spam the Blizzard default UI stance bar, it sometimes can take you straight out of the form you just went in. But if you have separate macros for each form, then it doesn't let that happen. Focus bash, I've got pretty much focus for everything. Cyclone, focus roots. It's just nice to be able to not worry about changing targets, so you can keep healing one target or keep helping out DPS another target while you can focus CC the focus target. Burst macro, this is basically just my incarn, nothing too fancy, or a trinket if I've got an unused trinket to use as well. These macros here, the healing touch 1, 2, 3, 4. I only use these for feral spec, and it's just easier to, when I get predatory swiftness buffs, I can just throw them onto whatever target party. I don't have to worry about targeting them, lose DPS by targeting a friendly member instead of my main target. Leap here, the main reason I use this is just for the cancel form, really. Sometimes it's nice to be able to just cancel form when you need to do something. For example, if I'm in bear form, I can just hit that macro and it'll take me straight out of bear form. I'll cancel it straight away, because I've noticed with the default stance forms there's a bit of a delay. If I was to hit the Blizzard default bear button, it takes a little bit just to get out, but with this macro it instantly takes you out of form no matter what. That's why I use this, and I like this most. I use mouse over macros only for PvE. It's just easier on my raid bars. If I'm in a BG, for example, I can just mouse over and throw hots on whoever needs them. Same with Swift Mend. All my hots I use. The power shift macro, this used to be really good, but now Blizzard has once again put a CD on shifting, so there's no point in using power shift macros anymore. This used to be able to, you'd press this and it would shift you out of whatever form you're in and shift you straight back in, but now with the CD it makes this useless, and I don't use this anymore. Innovate, you've got a mouse over Innovate, mainly for BGs and raid purposes. I've got my Feral Burst macro, which basically incarns. There's not much to it. I usually have Berserk with that as well as a Trinket. I've also got the Incarnation macro ready for my Resto Druid. Basically, it'll activate Tree Form and whatever else. If I've got a Trinket to proc or something to hit, it basically hits it all together at once. That's pretty much all there is to it. I don't use any majorly fancy macros. Another one which I find quite good is the meld macro if you're Night Elf. Basically, sometimes when you need to meld something, you're casting, it takes a global. You have to waste a global to move and stop the cast, and then shadow meld, and that can be too late sometimes. So it's nice to have that stop casting and instantly shadow meld, or a War Stomp, for example, if depending on your race. Okay, moving on to add-ons. First of all, there's Gladius. Gladius is really nice for arena. It shows your enemy trinket cooldown, the DRs, the health, obviously the mana resources and stuff like that, pets. It's a really nice add-on to use for arena. And I'd find arena quite hard without it, to be honest. The second add-on that I'd recommend is Omnibar. It basically shows the cooldown of your enemy's CDs. I can honestly say that I wouldn't be able to get above 2,500 without this add-on. It's so nice to know exactly the CD of your enemy's cooldowns, knowing when they're gonna pop them. It's so much easier to predict and plan ahead, knowing what your enemy CDs are. It's also nice for the kicks as well. You can see when you've juked a target, or what enemies have used what, basically. So Omnibar's one of the best PvP add-ons you could possibly get, without a doubt. You can also customize it to show different cooldowns, or the cooldowns of whatever you want to see, basically, of each class, which I think is really nice. The next add-on is Bartender 4. Basically, this is why my UI looks so clean. It lets me just move different things. It's really nice to be able to just move stuff wherever you want to, and not have to worry about which bar's which, or which keybind is going into what slot. It's also got a nice keybinding feature as well, where you can just keybind and hover over whatever button you want to keybind and hit that keybind and it binds it. So Bartender I've used for years now, and it's one of the best add-ons I find comfortable anyway. Okay, the last add-on is Gladiator Losser. Basically, it's a voice that calls out when CDs are being popped, or if a certain spell's being cast. It's really nice to know when a polymorph's coming, so you can shift it. It tells you when it's going to come. Or when CD, sometimes you're that focused on getting out a clone or healing a target, it's really nice to have that voice just to remind you that this CD is being popped, or it just helps you react much better when you're in the arena. You can also customize it to be used anywhere, even outside of arena, but personally I just prefer it inside arena. You can also customize it to different spells, whatever spells you want to worry about or you don't want to worry about. You can customize this add-on to tell you and alert you when things are being cast and when stuff's back off cooldown, etc. I think it's a really nice add-on for PvP. Okay, moving on to races. The only one I would play is on Alliance is Night Elf. The Shadow Meld, it's like a second trinket if you time it well and use it well. and it's actually really overpowered if you know how to use Shadow Meld well. It's great for avoiding CC, melding to get drinks out, getting re-stealths in cat form if you're stuck in combat, for pets on you for example, just avoiding CC in general. If you're getting if a cyclone's getting cast on you, you can just Shadow Meld and it cancels their cast. Fears, you can meld fears if you time it well. There's a lot of skill-based gameplay to do with Shadow Meld, and I think that's why a lot of the druids play Night Elf and not Horde. If you're Horde, I suggest playing Troll. It's the haste is really nice, and the War Stomp of Taurens, it's not really worth it. The duration of the stun just doesn't make it worth putting it onto the DR, the stun DR. If you do play anything else, I mean, Tauren for example, it can be nice. They're good ferals. They get the extra crit, the extra stamina. It's okay. But Troll for the resto, the haste is really nice, and you know, the extra, the shuffle that reduces the movement speed duration effect. It's kind of nice too with druids, especially when you're being spam slowed or you've got 2 melee on you. It's really nice in general. For the keyboard and mouse, the keyboard I use the Technet Arcatrix Pro, the mechanical gaming keyboard, and for the mouse I use a Corsair Scimitar. Okay, moving on to keybinds. I think everyone's different. Keybinds, it just means the individual person, what you're used to. If you find something more comfortable than something that a professional BlizzCon winner uses, then you stick to that. If it's whatever feels comfortable for everyone. Don't try and copy other people's keybinds. You might get ideas like to keep spells closer to each other, or you might even get new ideas of where to put new keybinds or a new, easier to hit keybind. But never try and copy other people. Always go for what you feel's most comfortable and get used to that. Getting used to your keybinds, that's the most important thing, and you'll get the hang of it in no time. Extra notes: if anyone has any questions, I'm really more than happy to help try and answer them as best as I can. This is my first guide, so sorry if it's a bit rough. As well as editing, I'm not the best editor, but a lot of you asked for this guide, so I tried my best to bring it out, and I just hope it helps you guys in some way. Thanks for watching.
Bye.